Hello everybody, it's me, Madam Nasra. I'll be with you in history. Our topic today is establishment of colonial economy. Before, we have to know what is colonial economy. Colonial economy refers to the system of production and consumption which were introduced by the colonialists in their colonies in order to fulfill their colonial demand. As we know, after the coming of colonialists, first they started to scramble for and partition our continent. Then they started to establish the colonial administrative system. After ensuring the colonial administrative system, the next work was to establish the colonial economy. The major aim of the coming of the colonialists was to establish the colonial economy. And their demands which they were needed at that time was raw materials, markets, and so on. Characteristics of colonial economy. Colonial economy was export-import oriented economy. Export-import oriented economy. This means colonialists exported our raw materials and they imported the manufactured goods, raw materials like cotton, sisal, minerals, and they imported manufactured goods like beads, cups, goods from their industry, as they wanted to have markets in their colonies. Another is based on monoculture economy. Monoculture, they based on the production of the single cash crop. Another, it was based on coercion. Coercion means they use the force. They use the force to acquire lands, to acquire labor, and so on. Another is the construction of physical infrastructure. Physical infrastructure such as goods, railways, and harbor. These enabled them to transport goods from raw materials from the interior land to the coast and then transported easily to Europe in order to fulfill their industry. The fifth characteristics is establishment of weak and small industry. Weak and small industries. These industries were aimed to reduce the back. For example, during the sisal plantation, it was hard for them to carry all the sisal with their back, so as they established these industries in order to reduce some things which were not needed, and small other industries like which were used to produce like bed and such kind of industries. Another, dominance of European in trade. Before the coming of Europeans, Africans, they were their own trade, such as trans-Saharan trade, middle trade. So after the coming of these Europeans, these trade were distracted, and Europeans replaced the Africans' trade with their trade. The next part is method used to establish colonial economy. methods used to establish colonial economy. These methods, during the establishment of colonial economy, they used the three methods, which are creation method, preservation method, and destruction method. By starting with the creation method, Europeans created taxation. Creation means they created something which we were not used before the coming of European. Creation method, they came up with the taxation. Taxation, colonialists introduced the tax that had to be paid in cash, and these who failed to pay the required amount then had to produce cash crops and selling them to Europeans. Therefore, they introduced the taxation, which were paid in form of cash. Cash means money. So those who were not able to pay, they have to provide the labor force to the colonial plantations. In order to get money, then they have to pay them back as tax. Another is land alienation. They grabbed the land to Africans and they planted their cash crops. Another, cash crop production. Before the coming of Europeans, Africans were produced the food crop production. So they came with the cash crops like sisal, cotton, cocoa, and so on. Another is the introduction of monetization. Before the coming of European and before establishment of colonial economy, Africans, we were not in use of money. So they came with the money system. Monetization. The coming of European, they came up with the money system. Before the coming, we were not using on money. Even in the trade, we were using the barter trade. Means we were exchanging goods by good. But after the European starting the colonial economy, money system established the official. Another is African labor power. African labor power. Here, Africans were forced to produce their labor power to the European plantation. Not only in plantation, even though in the mining industries, in the mining industries and in their farms. Be it forcefully or by willingness, but Africans were needed to produce their labor power. The next method is destruction method. Destruction method, this means things in which Africans were using before the coming of Europeans were distracted totally. The colonial state destroyed self-sufficient African economy and forced to adapt their colonialistic economy. This is through the following. First, the destruction of local industries. Since they wanted to ensure that their goods from their industries must have to get markets in Africa. They distracted local industries so as these industries won't have enemies. They decided to cut hands to Africans who were destruction of local industries. Europeans cut hands to Africans who were engaged or in local industries by making baskets and so on. Another is destruction of local trade. African middlemen were not allowed to continue with their trade. Another destruction is destruction of culture. Destruction of culture here is colonialists weakened the African economy by distracting African culture like initiation ceremony, which brought African culture together. And this was done in order to divide them and get cheap labor. So they distracted our culture through that way. The next part is preservation. This is another method which were used by colonialists to establish colonial economy. Preservation means after the coming of colonialists, they didn't destroy that issue, though they established their economy. The first thing which Europeans preserved is the units of production. Before the coming of whites, family had been the major unit of production in the area. Then colonialists introduced the peasant economy, where family remained to be unit of production. So before the coming of European, family were used in production, and after the coming of European, family also were used in production, especially in peasant agriculture. Another primitive and rude technology. This is rude. Primitive and rude technology. After the coming of European, before the coming of European, Africa were used the hand horse and panga, which were not sharp and were in low technology. Then, after the coming of European, also they preserved the use of hand horse in the production, especially in the peasant agriculture, also in the plantation, in some plantation agriculture, they use the rude and primitive technology. This includes hand horse and panga. The next part is sectors of colonial economy. Sectors of colonial economy. The first one is colonial agriculture. Colonial agriculture based on the production of cash crops, where colonialists established large plantations in their colonies in order to get products which can act as raw materials in their industries. Colonial agriculture, as we said, as we know before that, the main aim of the coming of colonialists is to fulfill their economic demands. As we know, agriculture is a major, we can say it is the backbone of the economy of any country. Likewise to colonialists. They established the large plantations in order to get products which can act as raw materials in their industries. So, colonial agriculture had some types. The first type, these types are peasant agriculture, settler agriculture, and plantation agriculture. Starting with peasant agriculture. This was done by individuals for the aim of earning cash crop and providing foodstuff for the survival during the colonial rule. So we can say that peasant agriculture, done by individuals as family members were required to produce cash crop and providing food. Here, agriculture. This was done by individuals for the aim of earning cash crop and providing food for the survival during the colonial rule. This means the peasant agriculture aimed to produce not only cash crop but also food crop. Also, these were done by the family members. In Africa, this practiced in Uganda, Ghana, and northern Nigeria. Factors that favored peasant agriculture. What made colonialists to establish peasant agriculture and not other type of agriculture? First is dense population. Dense population. Due to the high population of certain areas, it was difficult for colonialists to alienate land. Therefore, peasant agriculture was suitable. For example, area like Uganda, Ghana, and northern Nigeria, it had dense population, high population. This area, Europeans failed to establish other types of agriculture. Rather, they decided to establish peasant agriculture, which they saw as it was suitable. Another governor's interest. Some governors preferred peasant agriculture in their colonies. Example, Governor Henry John Stone in Uganda and Sir Donald Cameron of Tanganyika decided to establish this peasant agriculture due to their interest. Another is nature of crop. Nature of crop. Certain crops such as cotton, coffee, and cocoa needed great care and could not be mixed easily with other systems of agriculture. So some crops were not suitable to use other type of agriculture. Rather, peasant agriculture was more suitable, like cocoa in Ghana. Another is strong kingdom or centralized states. Strong kingdom or centralized states. Centralized. In some areas where their leaders were very strong, it was difficult for the Europeans to grab land from the rulers. Therefore, these areas like is Buganda Kingdom under Kabaka, he was very strong, which made Europeans to decide to establish peasant.
Purchase your tracks today.